All right, thank you guys. The North Dakota State Bison take on Kansas, and that's going to be a 4 p.m. Eastern tip-off at the Allen Fieldhouse. As you can see, it's not on our screen behind us, but anyway, the Kansas Jayhawks are minus 24 with the total at 138. We're 2-0 in our last two extra daily picks on patreon.com/BrockPage. And access to today's extra daily pick costs just $2.99. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, I'll go ahead and explain a little bit more about it in just a few moments. We're also a perfect 4-0 in our last four college basketball tier package plays on that site as well. And although we don't have a college basketball tier package play going off today, we do have one queued up and ready to go for tomorrow. Now, we currently have over 725 members signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, we are seeing early movement on Kansas and the over in this one. I'm not all too surprised about that. We saw a half-point move toward the Jayhawks and a half-a-point move toward the over. So once again, Kansas opened 23.5 up to 24. Total open 137.5 up to 138. The Jayhawks had won their last two straight. Their only loss on the season was in the opener against number one Gonzaga, and they still managed to put up 90 points against the Bulldogs in that one. Now, Ochai Agbaji is scoring 17 points a game along with 4 boards and a couple assists. The junior is connecting on 46% of his three-pointers, and he's gone 13 for 16 from the stripe. Agbaji also has 5 steals and 3 blocks thus far in the season as well. Freshman forward Jalen Wilson is also scoring 15 a game along with 7 boards. And Christian Braun is also scoring 14 a night along with 7 rebounds and 7 total steals on the season. Now, the Kansas Jayhawks have successfully covered a 21-point spread over St. Joseph's a little bit over a week ago, so they do have the ability to cover a big number like this. And speaking of this game, they're taking on a North Dakota State team who's been a little bit, they've been getting thumped around a little bit to start the season. 0-3 straight up to start the year, 1-2 against the spread in those ball games. The Bison, they're scoring just 54 points a game on average, and their leading scorer, Tyree Eddy, is averaging just 10 points a game, and he's gone just 11 of 27 from the field. Now, the Bison's second leading scorer, Rocky Creaser, is scoring just 9 points a game, and he's hit just 10 of 27 from the field himself. The Bison are 3-0 to the under thus far for the season. Kansas saw their most recent outing with Kentucky stay under the line themselves. So with all that said and done, I'm going to lean toward the Kansas Jayhawks minus 24 and the under 138. And with that said, guys, before we go ahead and move on, just got to take another quick time out here and welcome you to the video. Got some lines and personal leans out for college basketball here for Saturday. But hopefully you guys had a good start to your weekend. Hopefully you're not too hungover here today on a Saturday morning, because we got a lot of college action, football and basketball. Now, before we go ahead and dive into some more free content right here on YouTube, just have to quickly remind you once again that we are 4-0 in our last 4 college basketball tier package picks on patreon.com/BrockPage. And we are also 2-0 in our last 2 extra daily picks on that site as well. And if you want access to today's extra daily pick, that's only going to cost you just $2.99. Now, you might be wondering, why would you sign up for picks on Patreon, where you can get them right here for free on YouTube? And that's certainly a great thought, a great consideration. But, if you were to go out there and bet every single game that's on the board, side and total, like I do with my breakdowns here on YouTube, it's certainly not a winning formula for success. I strongly advise against it. And as a matter of fact, if you end up betting every game, it's a recipe for disaster. The books are way too smart. The numbers are, way too difficult. They're way too sharp with the numbers. The odds become massively more against you. And to be honest with you, the bookies just have so much more money than you and I do combined to be able to absorb that type of action. So what I do on Patreon is I break it down and focus in on just 3 to 4 premium selections per day. They're my personal plays, games that I personally have action on. And I'll tell you this much, I'm having a lot more success betting on games that way versus wagering on every single game that's on the slate side in total. Now, we do currently have over 725 members signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that website is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And moving on, what game are we doing next? I forget what game I'm doing. Oh, there it is. Fairleigh Dickinson versus Providence. And that's going to be a 4:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The Providence Friars are minus 18 with the total at 144.5. Providence has won 2 of 4 to start off their 2020 season. And those were victories against Fairfield and Davidson during that span. Now, they actually held their opponents to just, 59 total points on average in those 2 victories. Of course, when you talk about Providence, you got to, talk about Nate Watson, who's scoring 19 points a game along with 5 rebounds. Now, the 6'10" center is also shooting 75% from the stripe. Junior guard David Duke is also scoring 16 a night along with 5 boards and 3 assists. Duke's shooting nearly 50% from downtown, and he's also connected on 90% of his foul shots. Now, they're taking on a Fairleigh Dickinson team who's 0-3 straight up on the season, and they give up nearly 85 points per contest. Now, 2 out of the night's last 3 ball games did get over the total of 144.5. Meanwhile, 2 out of Providence's last 4 got over that number themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Providence Friars minus 18 and the over 144.5. All right, next matchup I have for you, I believe it is it is going to be Lipscomb, Arkansas, and that's going to be a 5 p.m. Eastern tip-off at the Bud Walton Arena. The Arkansas Razorbacks are minus 16, totals 144 flat. The Razorbacks are 3-0 straight up to start this season, 2-1 against the spread in those ball games. Arkansas is allowing just 58 points a game defensively. Moses Moody is scoring 17 a game for Arkansas, 5 rebounds and a couple of steals per night for the guard. Moody's also made 23 of 26 from the foul line, and he has 6 total steals on the year. Now, Justin Smith is also scoring 14 points a game along with 6 boards and a couple assists himself. The 6'7" senior also has 7 steals on the defensive side as well. And, of course, when we mention, Arkansas, you got to talk about Connor Vanover, who's an absolute giant. He's scoring 14 a night along with 9 rebounds. The 7'3" sophomore doesn't even really have to jump in order to dunk the basketball. And obviously he's averaging 4 blocks a game. So certainly being disruptive with that size. Now, Arkansas is taking on a Lipscomb program who lost their last 2 straight. And that was just 60 points a game they averaged in those 2 losses. The Bisons also saw their last 2 ball games stay under the posted total. Arkansas is 2-0 to the under in their last couple of games themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Arkansas Razorbacks minus 16 and the under 144. All right, next contest I have for you. Unfortunately, not on our board. I don't know why, but it's going to be South Carolina versus Houston. 6 p.m. Eastern tip at the Fertitta Center. Houston's minus 9 with the total at 139 flat. We're seeing steady money on South Carolina and the under in this one. It was a 2-point move toward the Gamecocks and a 1.5-point move downward on the number. So once again, Houston opened 11 down to 9. Total open 140.5 down to 139 even. The Houston Cougars are minus 550 on the money line. Now, Houston's 3-0 straight up on the season, 2-1 against the spread in those ball games. They took care of Texas Tech and Boise State in their last couple of ball games as well. They're also giving up just 52 points per contest all season. Marcus Sasser is scoring 17 points a game along with a couple of rebounds. Sasser is shooting 50% from beyond the arc and 100% from the stripe. Quentin Grimes is also scoring 16 a game along with 7 boards and a couple assists himself. And freshman guard Tremont Mark is scoring 14 a night along with 4 boards. Mark is shooting 53% from the field. Now they're taking on a South Carolina program who just lost to Liberty in their, well, they didn't just lose to them. They lost to Liberty in their season opener, and they were actually the 7.5-point favorite in that ball game, too. Now, the Gamecocks' leading scorer, Jermaine Cuisinart, has hit just 11 of 28 from the field this season, good for just 39% in that category, so he's not shooting all that well. And when it comes to the total in this one, South Carolina's most recent outing with Tulsa stayed under the posted number. Meanwhile, Houston's gone 3-0 to the under to start the year themselves. Give me the Houston Cougars, -9, and the under 139. All right, next matchup, another game that is not on our big screen. It is going to be UNLV versus K-State, and that's going to be an 8 p.m. Eastern start time. The K-State Wildcats are -2, totals at 135.5. Now, the Runnin' Rebels of UNLV are plus $1.10 for some money line cash. Now, we are seeing early money coming in on UNLV and the under in this one. It was a 1-point fade of K-State in the early wagering, 1.5-point move downward on the number. So once again, the Wildcats opened 3 down to -2. Total open 137 down to 135.5. Kansas State's failed to cover the point spread in all 3 of their ball games this season. Their leading scorer is a guy named Mike McGurl, who's shooting just 37% from the field. Now they're taking on an UNLV program who nearly upset Davidson in their most recent outing themselves, and that was they successfully covered the +6 in that ball game. Now when it comes to this Rebels lineup here, Bryce Hamilton scoring 22 points a game along with 6 rebounds and 4 assists. The 6'4 junior from Pasadena also has 5 steals defensively as well. Now, Caleb Grill is also scoring 14 points per night, along with 4 boards and a couple assists himself. Grill's been pretty pesky on the defensive side. He's got 9 total steals on the season, 2.3 steals a game he's averaging as well. And, of course, can't forget about David Jenkins Jr., who's scoring 10 a game along with a couple of boards himself. The Rebels' last 2 straight ball games got over the posted number, 3-1 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Kansas State on the other side saw their season opener against Drake get over the line themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the underdog UNLV Runnin' Rebels +2 and the over 135.5 in that ball game. All right, next matchup I have for you. Once again, not on the board, although it should be. I think this is going to be a good matchup here. I'm talking about BYU versus Utah State, 9 p.m. Eastern start time. Utah State's the 1-point favorite with the total at 143.5. We are seeing steady money on BYU and the under in this one. 1.5-point move toward the Cougars, 2-point move downward on the total. So once again, the Utah State Aggies open 2.5 down to 1. Total open 145.5 down to 143 and a hook. The Aggies are -$1.15 for some money line cash. Now, Utah State's lost 2 out of their last 3. They went just 1-2 against the spread in those ball games. The Aggies are allowing 80 points per contest. They're taking on a BYU program who's coming fresh off a 6-point victory over St. John's. The Cougs are 3-1 straight up on the season, and they covered the number in 3 out of those 4 contests. Now, Alex Bichello is scoring over 18 a night, along with 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Barcello is also hitting 62% from beyond the arc. And of course, don't want to forget about mentioning senior guard Brandon Averett, who's also scoring 10 a game along with 3 rebounds and 3 assists as well. Now the Cougs are 4-0 to the under for the season. A lot of unders for BYU. Meanwhile, Utah State on the other side, they saw their second game of the season against South Dakota State stay under the line themselves. We're going to lean toward yet another slight underdog here. Give me the underdog BYU Cougars +1 and the under 143.5 in that game. And with that, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the show, kind of working backwards here, saving the best for last. But I'm talking about 1 versus 2, Gonzaga versus Baylor, 1 p.m. Eastern start time. The Gonzaga Bulldogs are -3 with the total at 155 juice to the under. The Baylor Bears are +$1.30 for an outright win. Now we are seeing steady money on Baylor and the under in this one. 1-point move toward the Bears and a 6-point move downward on the number. Gonzaga opened 4 down to 3. Total opened 161 all the way down to 155. Now Gonzaga failed to cover the number in their most recent outing against West Virginia. The Bulldogs are also giving up 80 points a game. That could potentially be problematic either today or down the road. But anyway, they're taking on an undefeated Baylor squad who's also 3-0 against the spread on the season themselves. Double-digit victories over Louisiana, Washington, and Illinois. A couple of good programs there, by the way. Jared Butler is scoring over 16 points a game along with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Butler's also got 8 steals and 3 blocks defensively. Maceo Tig is also scoring 16 a game along with 5 boards. And Adam Flagler is also scoring 16 points a night as well as 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Flagler's hitting nearly 50% from downtown. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Baylor's last 3 ball games got over the posted number. Meanwhile, Gonzaga's 2-1 of the over in their last 3 themselves. Give me the underdog Baylor Bears +3 and the over 155 in that ball game. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage, where we are 2-0 in our last 2 extra daily picks on that website. I like Kansas -24 under 138. Providence -18 over 144.5. I like Arkansas -16 under 144. I'm leaning toward Houston -9 under 139. I like UNLV +2 over 135.5. I also like BYU +1 under 143 and a hook. And last but certainly not least, I'm leaning toward Baylor +3 in the over 155. And with that, we're going to dive into some shout-outs. And from our YouTube platform, shout-out to IT Evans, Tasha M, 61 Nevada, Bo Dunn, Renisha Brown, Vernon Williard, Sylvia Vincent, Kevin Bernard, Mr. Portugal, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout-out to my man, Jason Kelly. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.